Back, it's time for our big question interview with Dr. Ekuru Aukot, a former presidential candidate and Third Way Alliance party leader, and welcome to the program.
Thanks, Anne.
So let's start with the handshake, because you have had less than kind words. Following the last, following the handshake, let me start there. Following the handshake, a lot of Kenyans have been optimistic that political temperatures have been, cooled, that it provides an environment where bipartisanship can now carry the day into substantial reform, whatever that reform may be. But at least the dailies today quote you as having less than kind words for the president, and they're somewhat surprising. I'll read a quote that is attributed to you. Quote, "Our further message to President Uhuru is this: before we all kiss and hug in a cosmetic effort of, quote, building political bridges, and quote, we demand that there be retribution and compensation for all the deaths, damage and displacement of persons in 2017. You further went on to say that the president, in his apology during the State of the Nation address, should have specifically apologized for the deaths, looting and damage caused to businesses last year. I'm just wondering why you appear to think that starting by talking and shaking hands isn't the right way, even to get recourse for all the other things you've talked about.
First of all, we are the only political party that, after the handshake, actually congratulated President Uhuru Kenyatta and the Right Honorable former Prime Minister Raila Odinga for what they did, because we encourage reconciliation for purposes of the country moving forward. But we also said that mere apology or conditional apology that comes as if I wronged you is really not an apology, because there are facts on the table about what happened last year. One, because of the nature of politics that happened in last year, and 200, I think, and 60 or 300 Kenyans lost their lives. There are families that are grieving about those lives. So if you are going to apologize, the apology is supposed to initiate a process of reconciliation. And
those figures, I would have to say, police statistics at that time give sharply different figures. But be that as it may, when you say the president should have apologized for deaths, looting and damage caused to businesses last year, in terms of the specifics, was the president responsible for that?
Listen, the President Uhuru Kenyatta is the CEO of this country. So he's actually in charge of all matters about this country, including security forces. So our statement was based on the fact that if we are going to begin a process of reconciliation, reconciliation is supposed to be preceded with an acknowledgement of wrongs done. And we did not only target President Uhuru Kenyatta. We said, okay, President Uhuru Kenyatta then ought to have said, listen, because of the nature of politics that was propagated last year by my now newfound counterpart, Raila Amolo Odinga, I apologize for the wrongs that are committed, for the killings that are committed by security forces who are under my command. We also said, Right Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga ought to have apologized, for example, for declaring himself a president, for criticizing a legitimately elected president, for the economic boycott and sabotage that he initiated. Those are all things, because let me tell you, until we own up to wrongs that we did, to misdeed that we did, then reconciliation cannot be fulfilled. I mean, listen, this country is supposed to be religious, about 80+% Christian, the rest Muslim and other religions. So if we truly believe in our religious practices and teachings, then let's also say, if we have wronged somebody, let's be specific to those people. I mean, the reason I say that President Uhuru Kenyatta ought to apologize, to be specific in terms of his apology, there are families today that are grieving. For example, the family of Msando, who was killed because of the mix-up around electoral management. Surely these guys deserve to know what happened to their loved ones. Why was Msando killed? Why did Baby Pendo killed? And many others. So I think for me, if we are really on the path of reconciliation, as a country, then let's be specific. Let's say we have wronged certain people. Let's say we have made certain wrongs. For example, why will Raila Odinga and Uhuru Kenyatta shake hands and say that, this is my brother Uhuru Kenyatta, when Raila himself has not accepted the fact that Uhuru Kenyatta was actually legitimately elected? But
by virtue of what he has done, it goes without being said, frankly. But
we cannot assume. Well, an honest leader must be able to say, I made a mistake, and that's the only way you can move the society forward. Let me tell you, the politics we were treated to last year was that certain leaders had certain persuasion and a grip on certain societies and their constituents. Now, you made those people believe on your kind of politics. You've changed, you've made a change midstream. Then explain it to your to your followers.
And he did explain it, and I think
what did he say?
Hold on, and I will quote it even for you, all right? So let's start with, of course, there's what they said during Matiba's funeral, that this is beyond 2022 politics, which is what some have opined.
I totally agree.
In a statement beyond that was just came in this evening, the former Prime Minister repeated again that it's not about the 2022 elections. There's nothing special about 2022 elections, and goes on to add that, we've had presidents and premiers before, but continues to say, quote, the only thing that is special is that we have arrived at an agreement that we must do things differently going forward. And is that, regardless of how polarized positions were, and I do hear you on that during the election period, isn't this a significant climb down that will make it possible to have bipartisan commitment, bipartisan talks about all the ills, including what you have said this evening? But you've got to start somewhere.
I am not opposed to leaders from across the spectrum shaking hands and agreeing that this is the way we must take our country forward. As a matter of fact, we are the only political party that has suggested that we need to begin a process of reconciliation. But what we have been saying is, let's be honest about it.
No, you're not the only political party to say that. Jubilee has said that, ODM has said that.
Well, they have said it,
but we welcome you saying it as well.
But have they demonstrated?
With a handshake? What would be more?
Listen, what is a handshake without necessarily acknowledging the wrongs that you did? What is a handshake if you cannot say, listen, I agree, my brother President Uhuru Kenyatta was legitimately elected. I stand down as a people's president. I apologize for the economic sabotage that I initiated.
But the handshake the Prime Minister has actually said that and called it off. He called off the economic boycott.
He said, I forgive those companies. What did those companies do to him?
Okay.
President Uhuru, we have not had President Uhuru take responsibility over the killings by security forces, not him, by the security forces, or about 300 Kenyans who died last year.
Again, your figures...
No, I mean, give me alternative figures. Give me alternative figures.
I won't give you alternative figures, but I will say that
then agree with what I'm saying.
Disputed, and the police have
but listen, Anne, unless you tell me there are alternative figures to what I'm saying,
there are alternative figures.
Yeah, which ones are those?
Which were much less.
Which ones?
Give
me a figure. I've given you 300.
30 or so.
I've given you 300 lives that were lost last year.
I won't indulge you on that any further.
Thank you very much. So I accept you admit.
I do not. Let's move on. Let's move on. You've talked about, what a day I'm having, right? Okay. Yeah. You've talked about, finding a way forward and it being through admission. There's the Building Bridges team that has been set up. Okay. Somewhat, if you like, eminent people in our community, elders, etc., people who have served in public service, etc. What do you think their priority should be in terms of finding that bipartisan position?
That's a very good question, Anne.
Thank you.
The priorities for this team should be to address the issues that concern Kenyans right now. It's not about 2022. I'm seeing people running around talking about 2022. And by the way, I congratulate President Uhuru Kenyatta for condemning people who are talking about 2022 today. I saw a clip somewhere where he was telling people to stop.
Matiba's funeral, right?
Yeah, speaking about 2022. But listen, what are the concerns right now? Let me give you a very personal example, an example close to my heart. I come from Kapedo. Last week, I think it was on Friday, 3 children going to school were killed by Pokot bandits because of insecurity, and a driver. For me, what I would like us to focus right now is the security of any Kenyan, wherever they are. We are talking about the security of this country. But look at what is happening, for example, in places like Kapedo, Baragoi, northeastern Kenya, parts of Kilgoris and the rest. Those are the concerns we should be talking about. We should be talking about, for example, the government bill that has sponsored a new tax regime. That tax regime is zero rating the price of unga, pesticides, LPG gas, which means that the manufacturers of these products are not able to reclaim VAT. That means that you and I will have to bear the cost of production of those goods.
Right.
That means that the cost of living is going up. We are talking about, for example, the failure of of Parliament today to be able to check on the executive. On the 30th of April this year, Third Way Alliance provided a memorandum on the Division of Revenue Bill 2018. In that Division of Revenue Bill, we say that Parliament has slept on its job by allowing the Division of Revenue to be based on the audited accounts of 2013-2014.
Right.
Then you are effectively denying the counties, the constituencies, and the people that you represent the rightful share of revenue.
Okay, so a broad range of issues that you have outlined, and just for quick clarity, the police said that they recorded 11 fatalities in August, and during the repeat election, 8 fatalities. So I'd even put the figure way out there. They said 8. Having said that, it's a disputed figure. IMLU, the independent medical legal unit, released separate figures. Be that as it may, I want to move on to the issue of a referendum. Okay. And let's start with this. I believe we have it. Very interesting clip from Wafula Chebukati, the IEBC chairman. He raised a few eyebrows today when he suggested that IEBC, as currently constituted, can still carry out a referendum.
Okay.
In just a minute, we should have it. Here we go.
Last year, and the referendum is just one election. Last year, I've just said we did 7 elections. So if a referendum comes, yes, the commission is in a position to do the referendum. However, we're looking at replacement of the commissioners who left, so that we have the minimum threshold required to carry out meetings of plenary and so forth. That's the only area which is affected.
So several things. And you're laughing quite a bit. Okay, let's start with, do we, as part of this reform that the country may hope we will have, that will not lead us back where we were in the past election, should a referendum be on the table? Do you think that's necessary right now, or could there be constitutional amendment through Parliament that is less severe?
Let's start with the basics. Which referendum, and referendum about what? When Chebukati talks about a referendum, what is he talking about? Which referendum? Who has sponsored what referendum? The only, again, political party today that has actually put forth a proposal for amendment of the constitution leading to a referendum is Third Way Alliance Kenya. And we have said that our referendum is called Punguza Mizigo, Reduce Parliament. And we have given about 6 reasons, cogent reasons, why we must go into a referendum and reduce Parliament. One of them is the fact that Kenya is overrepresented. Pick any country in the world, India, with a 1 billion population plus, about 600 representatives. China, the same thing, about less than 1,000 representatives. America, 350 million people, about 500 representatives. Kenya, 45 million people, 416 overrepresentation. Secondly, it comes with a cost. That today running our parliament costs us about 32 billion Kenya shillings per annum. The proposal with Third Way Alliance of Punguza Mizigo proposes to reduce that running cost of parliament to 5 billion annually. Number 3, we are addressing the question of the inequity between women and men, gender inequality in this country. And we are saying, let's elect one woman, one man from the county to the National Assembly and to the Senate. Number 4, We are actually strengthening devolution. Want to strengthen devolution. Want to give Senate, more powers. So
any referendum that should be on the table is yours?
Third Way Alliance Kenya referendum, because anybody else who is proposing a referendum, from what I'm hearing, it's about how do we get accommodated into government.
What do you think of the former Prime Minister's proposals in terms of, the three-tier structure of government?
Has he given any justification to begin with?
Yes, he said that counties as they exist are not economically viable blocks.
Yeah, come on. That's a very lame and useless argument, and I'm sorry to say that. What the Prime Minister is proposing is how much it can be accommodated into government. Today, we don't need to fight about the national.
You mean that you think it's about him and getting a position in government?
Absolutely. All the signs are there. It's about him. It's about increasing more cost to Kenyans. As opposed to our referendum, which is Punguza Mizigo, former Prime Minister Raila Amolo Odinga is actually proposing Ongeza Mizigo for Kenyans. Tax Kenyans more.
He's not talking about himself. He's talking about for devolution to properly work. He believes we should return to the original Boma's proposals, that there be a way in which these units are amalgamated. There's nothing to do with him. He's not talking about a premier's position or anything like that.
That actually kills devolution. The idea of devolution is taking services to the doorsteps of people. Third Way Alliance proposal, which is Punguza Mizigo, is that let's use the ward as a unit of development. That in the ward, we want to see a hospital, we want to see good schools, we want to see roads, we want to see firefighting, we want to see all the amenities. All these people who are hinting at amending the constitution, they're not giving any reasons. And come on, I wish you could tell me.
Those are the reasons they gave. Perhaps you don't think they're good enough, but they give their reasons nonetheless. But that we can move on, and you've talked about final referendum being there. Yours being the preferred
Ours
one.
is the only referendum that's
worth
discussing.
Chebukati's team, as currently constituted, run a referendum?
My message to Wafula Chebukati is this. He has lost credibility. He is not worth even calling himself a chairman of an electoral management body. Chebukati should resign immediately.
But purely as a matter of law, because he says what was affected by those resignations were plenary sessions.
To be fair to him, under the Constitution says that at least 3 commissioners, maximum of 9. So the commission is properly constituted right now, legally speaking. But under their own rules and regulations, which we all know, which they publish, you must have a quorum of at least 5 commissioners on an issue. So constitutionally speaking, 3 commissioners properly constitutes a commission. But under their own rules and regulations of operation, you need at least 5 commissioners to sit. But over and above that, IEBC has lost so much credibility, cannot be trusted. And especially the person of Chebukati. Chebukati has emerged as a very incompetent fellow, does not inspire any confidence at all, lacks basic understanding on the law. And I think for me, Chebukati will do himself service if he just resigned today. And that is,
but why should he
and that's what's envisioned in Chapter 6 of our Constitution on leadership and integrity. If you actually lose integrity and and confidence of the people, there's no need hanging on and insisting that you're actually a leader in that institution. Chebukati is actually offending the Constitution.
But they've already made it clear, when they appeared before the parliamentary committee, that they're not going anywhere. They're not looking for a send-off package or anything like that. If anything, Parliament should be getting ready to vet new commissioners for them.
We've also heard that they're demanding 700 million as a payoff package. That, we may have been born at night, but it wasn't last night. This country, secrecy was never invented in Kenya.
Well, I don't know. I cannot,
well, I'm just telling you, it's me speaking.
Today you have quite some figures, Ekuru, whose authenticity is yet to be
I would have loved for you, Anne, to have done a little bit of...
No. You're not even going to get away with that. No. Finally, because we are out of time. Yes, we are out of time. A lot of our countrymen are struggling right now. The floods have just caused so much heartache and, lives are lost, families are displaced. And, we're struggling to cope. Who would have thought that, most of the country would be going through this. What are your thoughts about this situation?
First of all, I do sincerely sympathize with people who have been affected by flash floods and people who've lost homes. But all I also know that is that we have a department called Disaster Preparedness and Management that has a lot of money, billions of Kenyan shillings allocated to them. I think what is the most important in the quest for accountability is what is this department actually doing in terms of preparing Kenyans for disasters such as, for example, the one we've seen today. We've had El Nino before, and therefore the preparedness ought to have been that, you know, when you have these kind of situations, we are able to avert them. It's unfortunate we don't see anything happening. Look at Nairobi today. Honestly, you live in Kilimani, Westlands, Lavington, I don't know, Karen, whatever. Mention any suburb area in this country. It's pathetic. Not to mention places like, you know, Eastern and you know, roads are not there. It's potholes everywhere. Nothing is happening. One actually wonders, what the hell is the county government in Nairobi doing? Even just pouring maram so that...
Should have watched the show last night.
What about the show last night? No, come on. I mean, what about the show last night?
The county government has said, you know, they have their plans in place. But I want to thank you, Ekuru, for your time. I'm sorry, I'm being counted down right now. I understand we are completely out of time. But thank you for coming on the show. Thank you for your views. Do we have a minute for the feedback? Absolutely not. Okay.
Well,
that's
thanks. I know you're cutting us short, but it's okay. We understand.
You can get a final comment. I'm sure we can indulge a final comment.
Well, I think we need to get more serious in this country in terms of leadership, in terms of calling for accountability. Let's stop political expediency as we are seeing right now. Let's not amend the constitution to please individuals. I think if there is a only genuine proposal to amend the constitution for the benefit of Kenyans, it is the one that is being proposed by Third Way Alliance. And
people can find it on your your website.
All you need to do is go to thirdwayalliance.com and you'll see the reasons for why Punguza Mizigo. And by the way, if you really want to talk about these serious issues, these are very serious issues. Find time, call the other proposals of the referendum here together with Third Way Alliance, and let's compare and let's debate them. And you will realize ours is the only genuine proposal to amend the constitution for the benefit of Kenyans.
And that's a debate I would love to host.
I'm more than happy to come here again with a serious panel and to discuss it.
Ekuru, give it up. That's our time. That's our time. Thank you. Thank you for coming in. Thank you for your time this evening. Thank you for watching. I apologize we're not able to take a look at your feedback because we're out of time, but I'll be reading it once we get off the air. Good night. God bless. Have a wonderful evening. I'll see you Thursday on Opinion Court. Bye-bye for now.